Welcome, my friends, to a lesson about tessellation. Tessellation? What's that? Well, it's the arrangement of shapes closely fitted together, especially like polygons in a repeated pattern without gaps or overlapping. And maybe to better explain this, I should tell you about an artist known as M.C. Escher. And he's one who's known for pioneering this idea of tessellation. Here are some examples of his work. What do you notice about this work? Do you see shapes? Do you see things that are recognizable? Do you see things that are not recognizable? How is he making use of textures, patterns, colors, line and form? Is there a simple amount of repetition, or are there a variety of things that are repeating in these compositions? How is he intertwining and being creative with the different things he's trying to put in his compositions? If you're interested in looking at this kind of stuff and knowing more about M.C. Escher, do some research on him, but I'd also like to show you how to do a tessellation, at least how to get started. And all you're going to need is a piece of paper, some colored pencils, and maybe some cardstock or cardboard or something a little thicker. And you're going to want to cut yourself a square or a rectangle. I cut a couple of them because I might do a couple of these. Well, for now, all we need is that simple piece. Oh, and there's one more thing we're going to need in a moment. A pair of scissors, but we don't need that just yet. Okay, this is going to take you back a little bit to that blob doodling that we did, because we're going to create something that might not look too much like something at first, but it will be able to create that pattern that we want, and we can work on making it into something as well. Grab your pencil, take a look at your rectangle, and I want you to draw some curves, some straight edges maybe, some kind of line that meanders and goes across your rectangle. Maybe even like this. Works out pretty well. Let's give that a cut. All right, look at how those lock in so easily like that. Go ahead and take one and line up that straight edge and put them right like this. And take some tape, it doesn't really matter what kind of tape, and go ahead and make sure those two sides are lined up. They need to be as perfect as possible. And then put a piece of tape across. In fact, you might even decide to put two pieces of tape just to make sure it's secure. Don't worry about taping the other side just yet. Just yet, because we're going to do something else with this as well. You notice we still have these two straight sides. We're going to do the same thing that we just did, but we're going to do it vertically this time. Not a vertical line, although you're welcome to do that. But you might want to try another kind of shape, maybe even building off some of the shapes you already made. So I'm actually going to take from right here and bring that around. Be careful of your tape. And right to there. And then go ahead and cut that as well. Cool. Now, you know, the original size of that rectangle didn't matter at all. You could make smaller ones, larger ones, whatever size you have. Just try this process out, and if you think, oh, next time you need something smaller, start with something smaller. If you feel like you need something bigger, start with something bigger. We're going to go ahead and tape those two edges together as well, making sure that they are lined up as closely as possible. That is so important to this process. There we go. Now, remember I talked about blob doodling and going back to that. Do you remember that whole idea of creating a blob? Well, what does this look like? It could look like a bunch of different things. But, just to get into the spirit, turn that over, because on that side there's no tape. It's pretty nice. You won't have any problems drawing on it. Go ahead and make something interesting out of your blob. And you know what? You don't really have to. If you want, you can skip ahead to the next part and just fill these in. But I'm going to go ahead and draw something cool on here. I'll speed it up for you, and it'll make a little bit more sense after I finish. Ready? Ta-da! It's sort of an anglerfish with a gut. Yeah. All right. Go ahead and grab that piece of paper. And you can use a nice big piece of paper. You can use a regular 8.5 by 11 like I have here. Once you do this once, you're going to get the hang of it. You'll understand what to do. You'll be able to plan it out a little bit better. To start, let's choose a nice spot to stick our first part of our tessellation. That looks like a pretty good spot. We're actually going to trace this right on to the paper.
Very careful.
Check that out. We made a clone. Yeah, anyway. Let's go ahead and decorate that one just like we decorated the first one. And of course, if you chose not to decorate, why don't you go ahead and color it in with some cool colors? And yeah, they might look a little different, but you're welcome to spend more time on them to make them look as much the same as you possibly can. It also might be fun to just see a couple little differences here and there. All right. Well, we've got one in there. And I'm going to give it a little bit of color. Let's really get into it. Ready? All right. So much fun. Yeah, he's quite a guy. Well, take your piece and check this out. It should be able to fit right next to this one. Oh, wait a second. It should also be able to fit above it as well as below it and on the other side of it. Did you notice that yet? So what do you think we're going to do next? We are going to trace a huge pattern of these across the sheet. Let's do it, friends. Check it out. Now, depending on the size of your tile, you may have more repetitions or less. And you could try bigger pieces of paper, different sizes, And you can color all these in the same. It'll look sort of like really cool wallpaper. Or you can color them in different colors. Well, that's sort of what I'm about to do now. And then after that, I think I'm going to try another one because I do have a couple more of these left over. Well, friends, happy coloring to you too.